You know, it was just one of these records that everything fell into place. You know.
Now with King Kobra being back, you know, you guys back in the day toured with Kiss, Iron Maiden, Queensryche. These are still names that are relevant. Does that surprise you all these years later?
Say again?
With all the people that you toured with, I mean, you guys toured with Kiss and Iron Maiden, Queensryche. These bands are still around, going strong. Does it surprise you that they're doing that?
Well, I think, you know, there's been in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a resurgence of these 80s music, you know. Started back when Motley Crue first came back with the original lineup, I think like the 204. You know, I think, and it's been going strong since. You know, Kiss has been around, you know, I don't think Kiss was an 80s band anyway. You know, Kiss was a 70s band.
Yes.
You know, and they've been around. But, you know, the Iron Maiden came back, you know, but before, you know, like in the 90s, a lot of bands were not doing anything. I mean, Kiss was always doing something. Because, like I said, they're not an 80s band. They were a 70s band that was huge. But, you know, all the 80s bands, there was not much going on with the 80s bands in the 90s, if you remember. You know, Iron Maiden wasn't around, and, you know, Queensryche wasn't doing much. Nobody was doing much, you know. Seems like the last 5 years or 6 years is when this started happening again, you know. So, you know, it's just a wild resurgence coming out. And I think, you know, maybe VH1 helped that, because VH1 started doing a lot of 80s stuff in the early 2000s, you know.
Are you taking Kobra out on the road, Carmen?
I don't know, you know. We're trying to figure that out now, because it's really not a lot. There's not any money for the band, you know, because as I've been telling people, you know, we had a big promo, big hype thing in the 80s where our name was big, but a lot of people didn't know the music. And the record company never stayed with us long enough to catch up to the press, you know. Like the same thing that happened with Kiss. Kiss came out, there was a big hype about them, and then they didn't get really big until, you know, that live album.
Right.
You know? Because, you know, they sold some albums, but they weren't big. But their press was big because of the stage show and the image. Same thing with King Kobra. Our stage show and our image was really big, but we didn't have the record sales to equal that. So, you know, at our biggest location for sales was L.A. We'd sell out 2 nights at the Country Club, which was 1,800 people. You know, New York 800, Detroit 700, that kind of thing. So, you know, bands that were selling platinum and selling out, you know, 25, 3,000, 4,000 people are now playing 300-seat clubs. So where does that leave King Kobra?
Yeah.
You know, we never sold that big. So, so what I'm trying to say is there's not a lot of money being offered to the band to go out there and play. Some of the European festivals that we got offers from wouldn't even pay for the plane flights. Okay, so I mean, I love the band, I love this new album, but you know, I'm not prepared to start losing money on gigs, because who's going to pay? Who's going to pay for the loss?
Well, I think you've paid your dues enough to avoid that trap.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, when we did the record, we just thought we'd do it for fun, and then it came out great, and everybody's saying, when are you guys going to tour? And I said, well, you know, we weren't really planning any touring unless the record exploded, you know. And, you know, today, I mean, what record on Frontiers have you known, or any 80s band that exploded again?
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't big in the first place, you know. I don't really expect King Kobra to explode with this, because there's no, you know, there's no way anymore to do it. There's no radio, there's no, you know, everything's different. No record stores, you know. There's really a different way to do it. I mean, today, you know, a label like Frontiers Records, if we sell 10,000 units, 15,000 units around the world, I think they'll be happy.
Very.
Because, you know, they make whatever they make, which will, you know, which would definitely make back the money they put out. And, you know, so what we're looking at now is if we sell enough records to go on and do another record, and have some fun doing another record. And then maybe after that record, it would warrant enough to get some more money for gigs maybe next summer, you know, and maybe be able to do that. But in the meanwhile, we're looking at a couple of options to do a gig here and a gig there. You know, the problem is we all live in separate cities.
Yeah.
all live together in one city. You can say, hey, let's get together and rehearse, and let's go play in Vegas for one night. We all drive to Vegas or or LA and do one gig, but it's not like that,
Definitely. One of the projects you worked on that I wanted to mention was the Wallner and Vivian Vain project. You and Vinny both drummed for them. Is it important to you to help promote young artists like that?
Well, we met this kid in the Rainbow, and he was such a big fan of mine and Vinny's. Me and Vinny were together. That he said, hey, man, I'd love for you to play on the track, and we said, well, we don't usually have time, but if we can, we'll do it. And then he offered us some money to do the track, and it was okay. It was like the kind of money we get to do sessions. So we said, you know what, we don't do many sessions. So I did it first. No, Vinny did it first. Sorry. And then he said he did it, and he said, he wants you to play on a track. I said, okay, I'll do a track. And then, Vinny did it with Rudy Sawyer, and before you know it, there's a lot of my friends playing on it. So I said, I'll do it, So we ended up doing, I did 5 tracks, and Vinny did 5 tracks. And when I first did the track, the guy was a big Blue Murder fan also, and he sounded very, he sounded like a John Sykes fan. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. And Tony Franklin played on it, and then the tracks that I played with Tony and him, it sounded similar to Blue Murder. So I liked it, and I said, he's a nice kid, so why not? So we did it, and it ended up sounding pretty good. I was very pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, we're actually going to be talking to Will later in the day. I know he's very grateful to you and Vinny for the help that you provided him. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Tell him I said hello.
Definitely. Just to wrap up, Carmen, I wanted to ask you one final question. With all the people that you've influenced in your career, who do you look to for influence when you need inspiration?
Well, and now I don't look to really for anyone today for inspiration. I just get my own inspiration from whatever. It could be anybody, anything that comes up. I could see a drummer, a brand new kid doing something and go, wow, that's cool, and I'll think about it and do it my own way. But in the old days, I used to look at Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, Joe Morello, Max Roach. The jazz guys were my inspiration, and the last one that inspired me was probably the Police in '78 when they came out. They were really, really inspiring. Before that was like Marvish and Orchestra. Before that was like Jimi Hendrix and the Cream, stuff like that, but as of late, probably the last inspiration thing, maybe I was later than the Police. It was that whole grunge movement, Soundgarden and all that. I really like that stuff. Cool. And when I did my Guitar Zeus records, I used Soundgarden as a basis for the Guitar Zeus sound, Make it real heavy and have a lot of time signatures and all that. That's why I liked the grunge movement, because it was very musically creative. It was like going back to the '70s, but now you had all this. It was a rhythm section band. Mm-hmm. It was all driven by the rhythm section, by the bass and drums and weird time signatures. The grunge thing didn't have all these long guitar solos. It was all rhythm. Solos were all rhythm, and I really like that,
Wonderful. Well, before we go, I want to encourage everyone listening to pick up the new King Kobra album, because it is amazing. I feel it's a modernized 80s sound, and I think you guys did a great job. I want to thank you for doing this, Carmen, for taking the time.
Well, thank you very much. Now, let me just say one thing here. When we did this record, Frontiers explicitly said to me, it's got to sound like the 80s, because I did a record in 2000 called Hollywood Trash with the singer King Kobra, Guitar Zeus singer Kelly Keeling. And we did it, and it sounded like my Guitar Zeus records, which was reminiscent of a very heavy 90s kind of sound. Mm-hmm. And they specifically said that this album has to be an 80s kind of sound. They didn't want that sound. so that's what we gave them, but we did modernize it a little bit in the technology,
Definitely. Well, thanks again, Carmen.
Okay, mate. See ya.